Welcome to this in-depth discussion. Today, we have a document in hand, which is a QA between a master and an apprentice regarding the chapter on the 10 dedications or 10 stages of perseverance practice in the Avatamsaka Sutra Flower Garland Sutra. We want to explore together why these 10 dedications are considered key to learning the Dharma and even achieving the state of unobstructed realization of the Dharma. This document actually contains quite a few viewpoints worth considering. Good. Let's break it down then. I think the core of this discussion is actually about how to lay a correct and solid foundation for ourselves, whether in study or in practice. In other words, you first need to possess the necessary causes and conditions or seeds and environment. Causes and conditions. Yes, without this, it is like building a house where the foundation isn't laid properly. I think I can relate to that. You might have had similar experiences when learning something new. Don't you find it particularly easy to forget? Or you can't grasp the main point exactly? Or you study for 2 days and feel, I'm stuck, I've lost the momentum, and want to give up. The document says this is actually a state of obstruction. And this isn't simply about whether your memory is good or bad. The deeper reason, the document points out, might be our lack of the necessary causes and conditions for the act of learning itself. Lack of causes and conditions. Yes, it is like if you want to grow a very lush fruit tree. If you don't plant the right seeds initially, and you don't continuously water, fertilize, and weed, in other words, nurture it, it naturally won't grow. Right, and these 10 dedications happen to be the method of sowing seeds and nurturing that this document proposes. So that's how it is. The document particularly emphasizes that the 10 dedications encompass all the details and conditions needed to enter and deeply study the Buddha Dharma. All the details and conditions. Yes, it means that through vowing and dedicating or transferring merit, you have effectively sown all the necessary seeds. As long as you continue to irrigate, meaning you constantly practice and dedicate, it will naturally grow and flourish. That sounds very reasonable. Planting good causes naturally leads to good results. The document seems to use a contrasting negative example as well, doesn't it? Yes, like the concept of committing negative karma. Exactly. It says that as soon as the bad causes and conditions are met, the negative result will definitely appear. It cannot be avoided. Precisely, this is actually a manifestation of the law of cause and effect. Conversely, when good causes and conditions are gradually accumulated through practices like the 10 dedications, for instance, you will naturally have more confidence to study faith route, more motivation to persist diligently effort route. Your memory and concentration will improve concentration route. Your memory and concentration will improve concentration route. And finally, wisdom will awaken wisdom route. All of these combined are like the learning engine inside you being started up, activated. Yes, it naturally allows you to move forward smoothly, making it less likely to get stuck or give up halfway. This also reminds me of the analogy in the document about living off past savings, doesn't it? Yes. It means that relying only on the little bit of good fortune or good affinity accumulated in the past is actually not enough. It is like a bank account. If you only withdraw and never deposit, it will run out quickly. Exactly. So the key seems to be proactively establishing new good causes and conditions. Continuously investing in your own learning and growth. Yes, proactivity is absolutely crucial. For example, the document mentions frequently reciting with reverence to Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. This phrase is heard very often. Yes, almost everyone knows Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, but just knowing it or reciting it with the mouth might not be enough. This part specifically emphasizes the word reverence or respect. Reverence, do you truly, profoundly, from the bottom of your heart, trust and entrust yourself? If it is just with an attitude of, I worship you, so you must protect me and help me, that kind of transactional mindset, then the source material says this probably cannot be considered true reverence. It's more like using them. There's a hint of that. Speaking of reverence, the document puts forward a viewpoint that startled me a bit. Which viewpoint? It says that when we constantly talk about, or even just keep thinking in our minds and focusing on, the flaws of others or those negative news items, we are actually paying reverence to those negative things. That statement is quite revolutionary. Yes, the material even gives an example. Imagine a group of people gathered, and the conversation always revolves around someone's right and wrong, or what someone else did wrong. It's a very common scene. Can you think back if sometimes, almost unconsciously, you spend a lot of time and energy focusing on other people's problems, gossip, or even negative news in society? It seems I really do that sometimes. And this leads to the next point. What might be the consequence of continuing to do this? Yes, what is the consequence? According to the document's analysis, it's far more than just learning a bad example from others. It suggests that this continuous negative focus itself plants a bad cause, which then triggers a chain of problems. Plants a bad cause. Yes, first, there are verbal creations, speech that incites discord, slander, harsh speech, abusive language, untruthful speech, falsehood, or idle, meaningless chatter, frivolous speech. Yes, all of these will bring corresponding negative consequences. The document even mentions that doing this can cause all sorts of things in one's life to break down or go wrong in such a serious way. Yes, it says, small things like the items you use breaking down easily, and big things like your studies, career, or even your entire life might become very difficult as a result. Wow, that statement sounds a bit too absolute. Does it mean that the things we say and the things we focus on directly affect the material level and the opportunities in our lives? The viewpoint presented by the source material seems to be exactly that. It sees this as a chain reaction of cause and effect. However, a more direct and easily observable impact is that you lose the trust of others. That is certainly true. Yes, think about it. Who would want to trust someone who constantly talks about others' faults and spreads gossip? Exactly. The source describes this situation as being finished instantly. Once trust is broken, it's very hard to repair. Then you can easily find yourself in isolation, like being stuck in a swamp, finding it hard to climb out. That's why the source uses such strong language, calling it standard self-mutilation and self-harm. Self-mutilation and self-harm. It certainly sounds like harming oneself. So why do people still do this somewhat unconsciously? Does the document offer an explanation? Yes, it mentions a few possible reasons. One is ignorance, not knowing what should or shouldn't be said, not understanding the immense power of speech and thought, and the consequences thereof. Another is conceit or pride, trying to show off that you are superior to others or more well-informed by talking about others' shortcomings or claiming to know some insider information. Sometimes, the document says, people even fabricate things just to save face, telling lies. So, this mindset of elevating oneself by demeaning others seems quite common. But rarely do people realize the consequences could be so severe. Therefore, as opposed to falling into this negative trap, the solution lies in actively establishing positive qualities and power through the 10 dedications. The document has a sentence that I think puts it very well. You dedicate all your merits to these vows. You entrust yourself to these points. In the end, you become these points. Entrusting yourself to these points. In the end, you become these points. That sentence is very meaningful. It means that by continuously directing our mental energy and all the results of our practice, that is, merit towards those pure and good aspirations, we ourselves will gradually be transformed and come to embody those good qualities. Exactly that meaning. This is a very active process of self-shaping. And by doing this, the document also mentions specific, practical benefits, such as achieving the 4 eloquences or 4 kinds of eloquence. When you can speak words that are truly helpful to others, you are ultimately benefiting yourself too. That makes a lot of sense. And there is another viewpoint that I find very encouraging. What is it? It says that even if you only attempt to practice compassion, for example, you vow to benefit all sentient beings, but perhaps due to your lack of capacity or other factors, you don't achieve the expected result. Even so, The aspiration itself and the process of trying can already generate immense merit. Really, merit even if it's not achieved. Yes, the document uses a Buddhist analogy, saying this merit is as vast as to Mount Sumeris. Isn't Mount Sumeru incredibly large? Yes, extremely vast. At the same time, it can eliminate as many negative karmas as one Mount Sumeru. Heavens, that is astonishing. It means the motive and the effort in the process itself are highly valuable. Precisely, it highlights the importance of aspiration and intention. So, what specifically are the 10 dedications dedicated to? Does the document mention it? Yes, the document emphasizes that the 10 dedications are mainly used to collect and accumulate the perfect, pure, and faultless Dharma, that is, JW-JNFG, to collect the cause of faultless, pure Dharma. It includes a series of very specific vows, such as dedicating that all sentient beings be free from suffering and attain bliss, dedicating that oneself and all beings attain unsurpassed wisdom, dedicating that the Buddha Dharma remain long in the world, dedicating that oneself can always abide by the needs of sentient beings, and dedicating that oneself can adorn a pure Buddha land. These vows provide a very clear, positive focus that allows our minds a path to follow. I understand. A point is also specifically reminded here: one should not, due to conceit, think that one is more capable than the Buddha and casually alter these fundamental teachings. The 10 dedications are a pure teaching instructed by the Buddha and form a very stable foundation. Understood, maintaining the purity of the Dharma is very important. So, if we follow the path established through these 10 dedications and move forward, what kind of state can we ultimately reach? The document mentioned Digu MPZHOFGG for the purpose of great light universally illuminating He Dharma realm, and ZHGU MDZHJMGG for the purpose of dwelling in the vast realm of wisdom. Digu MPZHOFGG. Wow, that sounds grand. Yes, it uses a rather interesting analogy to explain. Imagine you are given a brand new, super complex computer you've never seen before, but the moment you look at it, you instantly understand all its internal structure, the function of every part. Wow, and you immediately know how to operate it for the best effect, perfectly completing any task. This state of wisdom where everything is seen clearly, distinctly, and can be used very freely without any obstruction is what is called great light. And universally illuminating the Dharma realm means this wisdom pervades all time, space, and all existence. There is no corner it cannot illuminate or see clearly. This wisdom sounds almost like a superpower. And what about ZHUNDZHJMGG? This refers to that broad wisdom which we mentioned earlier as omniscience, spontaneous wisdom, uninstructed wisdom, and unobstructed wisdom, being able to stably and enduringly abide in your mind. Stable, yes, becoming something you innately possess, like your hands and feet, which you can use naturally and at will, rather than a state that only appears in occasional flashes of inspiration. However, there is a very, very crucial point here. What is it? That wisdom alone is not enough. It requires compassion to assist it. Wisdom requires compassion. Yes, if a person possesses very strong wisdom and ability, but lacks genuine, vast compassion in their heart, they might fear the responsibility that comes with such ability. The document mentions a situation where they might fear being asked for help, feeling that beings seeking their help is a troublesome matter. This points out a very important aspect. If great ability comes with great responsibility, but the heart lacks corresponding compassion to bear it, it seems they might really want to hide away. Yes, this seems different from the Bodhisattva path we generally understand. Yes, the material draws a comparison. The arhats, who mainly seek their own liberation, versus the Bodhisattva practitioners who vow to deliver all sentient beings, such as Shakyamuni Buddha and Kitagarbha Bodhisattva. The document even suggests that the great compassion of some Buddhas is considered imperfect. Buddhas can be imperfect because they might selectively avoid those beings who are particularly difficult to convert, or particularly troublesome, or those worlds that are especially chaotic. This, in turn, highlights how rare and precious the unconditional compassion of figures like Shakyamuni Buddha and Kitagarbha Bodhisattva is, knowing that beings are hard to save, yet not abandoning a single one. The document seems to mention some Bodhisattva exemplars who embody this vast compassion and wisdom. There is Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, whom we are very familiar with, often depicted with 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes. Yes, symbolizing that they can simultaneously see and save immeasurable suffering beings. Exactly, and Mayur Bodhisattva, in some descriptions, has the form of 1,000 arms and 1,000 bows, also representing vast power, especially Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, who is said to specifically manifest to help those sentient beings with a connection. Yes, these descriptions, whether 1,000 hands and eyes or manifesting in person, are all expressing a pervasive, omnipotent, compassionate protection. As long as beings have a need and an affinity, the Bodhisattva can provide the most suitable help, and to reach a state like theirs requires following the Buddha's teachings, practicing step by step, and accumulating. And the 10 dedications we are discussing today is a very, very important starting point and foundation on this long path. The document seems to make one final reminder. If we truly want to feel and experience the compassion and the wisdom of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, or their potential manifestations, we need to let go of our excessive attachment to this physical body and our naked eye. Yes, the source says our naked eye is the eye of karmic obstruction. The viewable is very limited, and perhaps inaccurate. Exactly. We need to let go of this limitation and experience it with a purer, more open mind to possibly allow that spiritual light to shine through and feel that pervasive compassion and wisdom. Letting go of attachment. Okay, after this in-depth look today, the core message of this document on the 10 dedications in the Avatamsaka Sutra seems to be that the 10 dedications are not just some abstract wishes. Yes, they are more like a very proactive action plan to help us understand and practice the Dharma, clearing away the obstacles in learning and practice, and laying down the necessary foundation, that is, sowing good causes and conditions. Exactly, laying a good foundation. It guides us to counteract those negative habits within our minds that we might not even be aware of, while consciously cultivating vast wisdom and compassion. So what does all this mean for us? This perhaps leads to a question that is worth each of us reflecting deeply upon in our daily lives. According to what we have discussed, even those seemingly small choices, for example, the words we speak every day, the people and things we direct our time and energy towards, in other words, what our inner heart truly reveres, these are all continuously shaping our inner world and our outer circumstances. Why not take this opportunity to observe ourselves? In a day, where is the majority of your attention and reverence directed? Is it towards things that nourish you and help you grow constructively, or towards gossip, complaints, or worries that drain your energy and might even bring negative influences? Through this continuous focus, what kind of seeds are you planting for your future? Thank you for participating in this in-depth discussion.